the number one question that every new fractional that talks to me is always like, how do I get leads? How do I build my pipeline? And it's always like, start with your network, but they always say, okay, and then what? So asking you, and then what?
If you're a marketer, you should know how to market yourself. That's how you get your clients. Identify the ICP, identify where they are, and then start marketing yourself on that. I've identified LinkedIn as my core channel. Most of my leads come through LinkedIn or referral network.
Where do you see the future of fractional? It's a big question.
The future of Fractional is going to be amazing, I think. Especially in Europe, there are a ton of very cool tech startups and scale-ups that need a lot of fractional help. So yeah, I see this still going strong for the years to come.
My guest today is Sjeel Koster. Sjeel started her career as the 16th employee at SEOshop, which was acquired by Lightspeed, and then rose to become the head of EMEA marketing by the age of 25. Since then, Sjeel's lived through IPOs, M&As, founding her own startup, and leading marketing for growth stage and mature scale-up. Now a sought-after fractional CMO, Sjeel brings hands-on leadership, GTM clarity, and founder empathy to every engagement, from seed stage chaos to pre-IPO polish. Welcome to Frac, the podcast where top fractional leaders share their wins, struggles, and stories from the trenches. Hosted by Adir Ron. Welcome to Frac, the podcast where we dive into the world of fractional leadership, the wins, the struggles, and everything in between. I'm your host, Adir Ron, fractional CMO. And my guest today is Sjeel Koster. Hi, Sjeel.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and thank you for joining me today. So let me start with a quick introduction. So Sjeel started her career as the 16th employee at SEOshop, which was acquired by Lightspeed, and then rose to become the head of EMEA marketing by the age of 25. Since then, Sjeel's lived through IPOs, M&As, founding her own startup, and leading marketing for growth stage and mature scale-ups. Now a sought-after fractional CMO, Sjeel brings hands-on leadership, GTM clarity, and founder empathy to every engagement, from seed stage chaos to pre-IPO polish. So, Sjeel, I definitely want to hear more about your journey and about the startup that you founded as well, because I always like that kind of intersection where fractionals are founders and vice versa. But maybe we'll kick it off with a little fun question. So I noticed that you're doing Friday VC office hours, right?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I did that indeed. I rounded it up now, so it's like almost finalized already. So yeah, but I did do that. Yeah.
Can you recall like one interesting conversation where you had a founder kind of come in and within 15 minutes completely change their entire perspective?
Oof, that's I had a lot of conversations. Their entire perspective. Usually what happens in those calls is that they bring one specific topic. So it's not so much about changing their perspective on something. They have a very clear issue or challenge. And then I'm trying to fix it within 15 minutes, or at least not fix it, but give them the tools to fix it, or give them guidance to know how to handle it. Right. So yeah, I wouldn't say that I like changed their minds. It's maybe more like stating the obvious, because I think the obvious is something that happens in almost every chat that I have with founders, which is focus, know your ICP, and get your positioning sharp, and then take everything from there. And I think that that's a bit like where it's like, yeah, indeed, that makes a lot of sense, but they still haven't done so, right? So
Yeah.
I think that is maybe more what I see in the fireside chats that I had with the founders on Fridays.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that's typically the case with a lot of founders, especially in the early stage, but even later when they're already in revenue and already in funding rounds, ICP clarity is such a big thing. Like it sounds so simple, but in reality, it's such a big thing, and sometimes something that's very, very hard to kind of nail correctly.
Yeah, and I think especially in those early days, still, if you're on the road to product market fit, it's very challenging to say like, oh, we're just going for this industry, let's make it work for this industry, let's adjust our roadmap to this industry, right? A lot of
Yeah.
founders really struggle to say, let's just double down on this. Well, that is the part where you can really succeed, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's just sometimes challenging them on making choices, and that's how you, I think, help them best.
Interesting. I like that approach.
Thanks.
Um, so let's dive right into into your story, and or how I like to call it is how the frac did you get here? So kind of starting in as the 16th employee, it's at what later became Lightspeed, then going over to EVBox, and then from there to a founder, and then Fractional. Can you share a bit about kind of that journey and kind of how that looked like for you?
Yeah. I think when I was a student, I never thought, oh, I want to become fractional, or I want to become a marketer, or I want to become a founder or something. I never, if you would have asked me when I was a child, like, what would you become? I would have said like a florist or something, right? So it's actually funny how I got here. Um, but yeah, I studied media and communications because I just didn't know what to do. And I studied that, and that's how I got into an internship at SEOshop, which was back then a very small startup, an e-commerce startup in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And when I joined, it grew so rapidly that yeah, when I think we were with 80 people when we got acquired by Lightspeed, and yeah, it was just a crazy ride. I think I was just lucky that I entered a startup with so much potential. At that time, e-commerce shops were booming, right? It was booming
Yeah.
business. We cannot comprehend that now anymore, but back then it was like almost having an e-commerce shop was not normal, right? It was like you either now jump on the ride if you're a retailer or not. And because of that, I had the opportunity to grow with the company at such an early stage in my career, which yeah, helped me to where I get where I am today. So when we got acquired, when we were, I think, with 80 people, Lightspeed was already like this big, yeah, venture-backed company
Yeah.
from Canada. And when they acquired us, they implemented a lot of frameworks, a lot of tooling, a lot of like teams that were helping us, which smoothened the process of like, okay, we're just going to make sure that everything that happens in Europe is just going to be as successful as we have things happening in North America. And that's when at age 25, I think I became responsible for the EMEA team. So I think I had a team of like 12 people reporting into me when I was 25, which was really early, and too early
Yes.
in a sense of that, I had never been a manager before, so I just learned it as I went, and of course I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and there was a lot of pressure. But I think that's also why right now I can use all those learnings into my day to day as a fractional. Um, Fast forward, when I was like working at Lightspeed like 4 or 5 years, they started to do like a lot of acquiring companies across the EMEA region and
Yeah.
also in North America. And they were working towards an IPO, and I think that happened in 2019 or 2018. If I'm not sure about the dates anymore, but which was of course crazy momentum and
Yeah. Of
a
course.
lot of things that you need to think about, and a whole different ball game when it comes to marketing and the responsibilities that you have at such an early stage in your career. And I think that all those learnings I'm so, yeah, grateful to have, because that is a unique, I think, almost track record that not a lot of people have, right? Not I don't think there are a lot of people that are fractional that can say, oh, I worked for a company that went IPO, especially not in the EMEA region,
Yeah.
because it happens a lot more in the US.
Definitely.
um, and then, yeah, after 7.5 years, it was either I need to move to the US or Canada, or I'm gonna continue working here in Amsterdam. But I just wanted to do something else, wanted to work in a different industry. So I went to EVBox. And EVBox, the reason why I wanted to join was because EVBox was a European company and they were headquartered in Amsterdam. So I was like, okay, if I have a headquarters in Amsterdam, I can at least, be in charge of a lot of
Yeah.
the strategy. And I didn't want to report back into the US at that stage anymore, because I was just a little bit done with the back and forth, the time differences, and yeah, I just wanted to be able to be part of like a company where you can really make the decisions, right, and have that
Yeah.
responsibility. And that's what EVBox gave me. So I became the right hand of the CMO there for 2 years, and that's where I learned from like the fast Lightspeed type of company to work for, where we had like huge budgets, huge very challenging targets, to going more enterprise and going more an account-based marketing approach. And at that time, it was very early stages of ABM as well.
Yeah.
Those weren't really things that people were thinking about. But at EVBox, we already did ABM. And they had a very big reseller network, which was also very interesting for me to learn a lot about. So I learned a lot at Lightspeed, but at EVBox, I learned a lot of different skills that were more enterprise-like and more PE backed instead of VC backed, right? That's also a
Kind
very
of
big.
like diversifying your palette in a way.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's very important, especially if you're a fractional, you need to have a lot of different experiences, because otherwise you cannot advise the companies that you work for in the best possible way. Um, and then all of a sudden, without me really looking for anything actively, the founder of SEOshop came to me and he said, Sjeel, I have this idea. I want to start a company. Do you want to become the co-founder? And I was like, well, that sounds interesting. I've never thought about becoming a co-founder before. It is a lot of responsibility. Like, what do you have in mind? And then he said, well, come to Ibiza, because he lived at Ibiza at the time, and then we will talk about it. So the next week I flew to Ibiza, and the week after I signed the contract to dive into this journey of building Holiday Hero, which is still existing, by the way, but still bootstrapped. And I've done that for 2 years. So, and there I was, the CEO, as a company, very tiny company, it's more like a co-founder than a CEO, but I was responsible for a very big part of the strategy, the product roadmap, the marketing division, the sales division. I closed the first deals, signed the first contracts myself, built the website myself, like all of these things, right? Really going into like the nitty gritty
Yeah.
things. And I think that was good, because after almost like 9 years of being like a head of marketing or a director or a VP, you lose a little bit the grip of the executional part, which is still sometimes very important if you're a marketer. So I got back into like the nitty gritty stuff again. Um, but
And I
yeah,
think also, like, as a CEO, you suddenly see other sides of the business as well, and suddenly the responsibility for P&L becomes heavier. Looking at how said you closed the first deals yourself, so looking at how sales kind of tie in.
yeah,
Suddenly everything has more gravitas, and everything is like more important and more urgent, and more painful. I think.
yes, yeah, yeah. You have a lot of different hats on, right?
Exactly.
So my journey at Holiday Hero really taught me how difficult it is to be a founder, and what you need to think about and what you need to be good at. And I realized that I wasn't good at all of those things that you need to be good at as a founder, or at least maybe I was good at some of them, but my heart lies in marketing, and that's what I realized during that journey. And
You
so
just didn't enjoy it enough, like
I
all
just
the
didn't.
other facets.
Exactly, it stressed me more, and it brought me so much stress that I was like, oof, I'm in my 30s. Why would I be feeling this way instead of like enjoying the work that I'm doing? So I quit, which was really difficult, because it's like you bring a child to life from 0 to 2, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you just
Say,
you
I'm
need
out. Yeah.
Yes, and that was one of the most difficult decisions in my life. But I think it's for the better because I feel really happy, and I still feel really happy. So I think it's the good decision, right? Sometimes it feels like you're failing, but I think that it was for a higher purpose, and the higher purpose was me becoming a fractional. Because now I can, use everything that I learned in my journey as a co-founder, and I can really understand what other founders are going through. I understand the stages from 0 to 1,
Yeah.
and from 1 to 10, or from 10 to 20, because of my journey as a Holiday Hero founder, because of my upbringings in Lightspeed, and because of my time at EVBox.
Yeah, for sure. I think this. I'll be honest. That's one of the things that when I was trying to find more interesting guests for the show, and I looked at your profile, and I saw this journey that you've done, plus your fractional journey, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I felt like this will be an interesting conversation, because I do think that kind of like your kind of upbringing, so to say, um, does give you a very, very interesting perspective into marketing and into what you're doing, and crossing the line and doing PLG and doing SLG and ABM, and then going and being a founder, and then going into fractional. I think I can resonate, because I feel like that's very much aligns with my story as well, and kind of like my journey, which had like a lot of different stations along the way. And I feel like that creates a more of an interesting backstory, so to speak, and a more open and wide perspective when you go into fractional.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So let's talk about your fractional journey. So how did you? So you decided to quit and kind of leave the company that you co-founded, figuring out, okay, I want to be more focused around marketing. But how did you end up becoming a fractional? How did you find that first 1-2 customers, fine tune your offering and figuring out like, this is what I want to do now?
Yeah, it didn't start as like, oh, I want to become fractional. I actually didn't really know about the concept of fractional leadership. So I started more as a freelancer, just doing like the first marketing job. And so I landed my it was also like a fractional engagement in a way, because it was like 3 days or something. I think the first engagement that I had, and I landed that first client because of one of my good friends and fellow fractionals, Hugo Parera. And he was already doing freelance work himself, but he had some leads coming his way, and he was like, "Sjeel, I don't have enough time. Do you want my lead?" And I was like, well, that's perfect, because I'm just starting off and I
Yeah.
need the money. I just said goodbye to my company.
Yeah.
So I was like happily like embracing that. So that's how I landed my first client. But whilst I was adapting to that new situation of working then 3 days a week, I also realized that, oh, this is actually interesting. There's so much that I can do in like 3 days for this specific client. I'm not there full time. I'm managing a team. Like, this actually goes quite well. And then I started talking with Hugo about it, and he was like, well, there is this concept, fractional leadership, and he sent me some articles, he talked to me about it, and then I was like, and then it clicked. And then I was like, that makes a lot of sense. This is what I'm
Yeah.
going to do. So that's how it happened.
Funny enough, I think I reached out to Hugo as well, and I'm supposed to have him in one of our upcoming episodes as well.
Yeah.
So he will be here on the show as well
Yeah.
in a few weeks.
Yeah, he's a good one to talk to for sure. He basically introduced fractional leadership to me. So yeah.
That's amazing. Cool. So kind of looking at your kind of like your resume as a fractional, I'll be very honest. I think your resume is one of the more impressive ones that I've seen, in terms of like the number of companies that you've had a chance to work with over relatively not a huge period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you go about? So maybe I'll start at the end. how many projects are you working on right now?
Right now, I have 2 fixed clients and 2 more coaching related engagements. So I have 2 fractional clients and 2 coaching related, because those are not really like fractional because I'm not embedded in the organization, but I do go to market coaching as well. So yeah, and I was like, if you would have asked me this question a month ago, I would have said I have 5. So I'm actually, yeah, I had 4 fractional clients. So
How do you
I was
manage four? I can't do more than three.
exactly. So the thing is, I've done that for 1.5 years, where I had 4. So I had finance on the Fridays. Then on the Thursdays, I had Aqua Blue, and on the Wednesdays as well. And then on the Monday, I had Florijn, and on the Tuesday, I had Billy Grace.
Wow.
Yeah, every day I woke up with a different hat, and it was just like, this is my Billy Grace day, for example. And honestly, it went really fine. Because I think I have a brain that works in buckets or something, that for me, that I'm very structured. But what I did realize after doing that for almost 1.5 years, like in this setup, is that I need a lot of holidays.
I can totally understand.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I was just in Nice last weekend. But and then I also realized that being a fractional means you also need to support yourself in like generating new leads or generating new
Yeah,
business, right? So if you work for 4.5 days, your brain is so um how do you say, full,
fried.
fried. Yes, right. That's the word. That you don't have time to publish articles or put work on your stuff for on LinkedIn, or to promote your brand again, or to do these type of things, right? I really had
Yeah,
to say no to a lot of conversations in the past because I just didn't have the time and I didn't have the bandwidth. And the thing is, like, I actually like writing. I have my own Substack. I started doing that, and I have all these ideas and all these things that I want to do, which I couldn't do because I was just working and only working and working and working. And even in the weekends, I was working to prepare for the rest of the week, right?
yeah,
Because if I work for a client, I just want to be able to, that I can, do everything in my capabilities to make it successful.
yeah,
So that's why I scaled down to 3 full days of fractional work. And then I have the Mondays and the Fridays for more flexible engagements, where it's either like a workshop day and then like go to market coaching that I do next to it, which is, yeah, I'm interested to see how this is going to go, because I get inbound leads and I'm like, oh, this sounds so interesting. Maybe I can just start slowly and then I end up with 4.5 clients again.
exactly. And then it creeps up on you again
Yeah,
and again.
yeah,
But I think that's really one of the hardest parts, at least in my perspective, of being a fractional, is like, how do you balance, kind of that long-term lead gen with actual client work, and not just in terms of like, how do I balance my days or my hours, but really like, how do you balance the progress of a pipeline? Because right now you're saying, okay, I have, two big like fractional clients, and a couple of, smaller things, and maybe a workshop, and maybe like someone comes in and then an inbound lead with an ask, and they could be a potentially great customer that I don't want to convert just yet. Maybe I want to keep them kind of like on low heat, and then when one of my bigger projects ends, I'll kind of migrate them over to be the next big project. But like, how, but timelines don't always align. So that's like, for me at least, and from some of the conversations that I've been having here, I feel like that's a big problem for a lot of fractionals. Do you
yeah.
resonate with that? Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I don't think only for fractionals. In freelancer world, that's just the issue, right? How do you
Yeah,
make sure that you have enough inbound leads or business? And I think that for me, I actually really like that game. And for me, it's almost like, how can I make this work, right? How can I just do it in such a rhythm that it flows into like my next engagement? And for the past 2.5 years, I think I've been fractional now 2.5, 3 years now. um, it has been really going well. I think only in the beginning I had maybe 1 month in between where it was a little bit quiet, but that was good because I needed to recharge and I needed to reset my brain. Um, but yeah, now the things that I'm doing is that if I enter into a situation where I see that there are months coming up where I'm not fully booked, right? So let's say one of my engagements is ending in March. So I know that after March, most likely they won't extend because I think that most of my job within the company has been done. Then I will make a plan on how I can already replace them. So it's almost like I'm doing my own little marketing plan, right?
Yeah.
So and I can compare it a little bit with building enterprise marketing plans. It's almost like building ABM programs for yourself.
Yeah, in a way.
And and because it's like I my general timeline in working with clients is between 6 and 9 months. Most of the engagements are between 6 and 9 months, and some of them get extended, some of
Yeah.
them don't. But I think most of them end at 9 months. So I can already, do that calculation of like how does my pipeline need to look in the coming. So then
Yeah.
I start having those conversations already with leads that have been interested, which I have been holding off on, and I know that the timeline is not right now. And I have my own lead form that I keep track of everybody that has ever requested to have a conversation or anything like that. And I'm like, okay, I will have more time around that date. Shall we just have the conversation again? Right. So, and what I also do is like a lot more posting and a lot more active campaigns around the time that I know that I need to have more clients. But at this point, I have been very lucky that I have a lot of inbounds and I don't need to do active ABM campaigns at the moment.
So interesting. So I have a lot of different questions, but
Yeah, yeah.
uh, um, but I'll start with the last one. So did you actually do like ABM campaigns for a specific client that you wanted to get,
No, not
or
specific.
not yet, or is it just like something that you're kind of planning to do? Because I've been dabbling with that concept for a while as well, and I'm kind of playing around with like identifying like a target company, for example, a company that just raised like their A round,
Yeah,
and they don't have like a marketing lead that's above like head of marketing, for example. I'm
yeah,
like, okay, I know that this is a good time for me to reach out. So like
yeah,
building a very, very tailored approach around like one specific company.
yeah. Well, yes and no. I think because the definition of account-based marketing is that you have your selected account target list that you're going after, right?
Yeah.
But you also know what your ICP is. I know what my ICP is. So I also know, for example, what venture capital firms have those ICPs in their portfolio. So if I do a collaboration like I did with Antler or with Peak or any other venture capital firm, I know that if I do a collaboration with them, that all of their portfolio companies would directly fit within my ICP. So that I see as a mini ABM campaign.
Yeah. It's a great one to many.
Exactly. So yeah. So that one for me is not as much as like, oh, I want all of these ones, but I know that a lot of them will be able to, that I can help them out. And that's also why I did the Friday office hours.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So uh, I do want to go um, back to when you did have, you know, four customers, 4.5 days. Just out of my own curiosity, because that's something that I've seen like two types of clients, client behaviors or client requests. So I'm wondering how that worked for you and how you manage it. So I guess like typically when you say when you talk to a customer and you're like, okay, I can give you a day a week. I guess some customers are okay with saying, okay, you're with us every Tuesday. And then, we know that you're not very available until the next Tuesday. Obviously, maybe, we're answering Slack messages, emails, WhatsApps, but you're not going to do any, let's call it, heavy lifting until next week. Whereas I've had instances with other customers that they were like, okay, a day a week is 8 hours, but we want to those 8 hours, like we need you every day. Like it's okay that you're only working for an hour or two on our stuff, but we need you more than what we need your brain power more than once a week. And when you have a lot of engagements, and when you have those two competing founders, the ones that are okay with 1 day a week and the ones that want you there like more available than once a week, I'm wondering if you've had it, if that happened to you, and kind of how you balance that. Or was it just like, I'm here every Tuesday, deal with it?
Exactly. So for me, I don't have use case number two, because the thing is like, that's also not that's not that's not my definition of being fractional. It's like, the commitment are those days, right? And I think it's also up to us as fractionals to educate founders and executives on what it actually means and what you can bring in, what you can do in that time. And if they are looking for someone that is there on a regular, they should go for someone interim. And that's not me. It's as easy as that.
Okay. I like that perspective. This is
Yeah.
what I do. This
But
is the way
you
I
need,
work.
right? You need to
Yeah.
be bold. For maybe first time fractionals or people that want to become a fractional that are listening to this podcast may say like, yeah, that's easy talking because like you have a lot of inbound leads and all these things. But the thing is, you need to stand your ground and you need to understand what you can and cannot do, because those will be the things that will drain you, having to say yes to those type of engagements while you know that you're not able to follow up on that. That will also be very conflicting during your week. The only reason why I could do like the 4.5 days for 4 clients at the same time was because it was like Monday is my Florijn day, Tuesday is my Billy Grace day, and it was like very like centered around that moment in time, that I could educate my brain or treat, how do you say, train my brain in a way
Yeah.
that it would work. But I think it would gets very messy if you need to, I think you need to almost say to the founder like, yeah, I don't know how you see this working. You want me to deliver my best self. How do you see that working when I'm 1 hour working for you and then another hour working for the other brand? It's like, how do you, would that work for you personally? It's like, yeah, I would challenge them on that.
Interesting. So I actually do work sometimes like that, but then I only do like, but then I do a split of like a batch of hours in the morning, then I take a break, and then a batch of hours in the afternoon. So I can do like 2 projects at any given day, and then with like some break in the middle where I work on my own stuff or take a break or go get my kids from school or whatever. But yeah, I can't imagine doing that with 4 customers at any given day. Or
No,
even 3 feels like too much.
exactly. So if you have two and then you do it in blocks, okay, yes, then indeed I think I could see that work. But indeed with four or
Yeah.
five clients, really messy and chaotic. So I would not recommend it. But
Okay, that's a good tip.
yeah,
Cool. And you mentioned that you're lucky to have a pretty nice solid inbound pipeline. So how does that, how do you get leads? And that's like the number one question that every new fractional that talks to me is always like, how do I get leads? How do I build my pipeline? And it's always like, start with your network, but they always say, okay, and then what? So
yeah.
asking
Yeah.
you, and then what?
And then what? Well, if you're a marketer, and then you know how to do it 9 out of 10 times, right? If you've been a CMO or a VP or a head of marketing, you should know how to market yourself. So that's like, why don't you know how to start marketing yourself if you're have been a marketer for decades? So it's like almost that's for me is very confusing. If you're a fractional sales leader or a fractional financial leader or whatever, I get it, right? You probably need a lot of like guidance on that, but it's going back to the basics. Identify your ICP, because you don't want all the type of clients. You're not for everyone. You have a sweet spot as a CMO and you know what you're good at, right? For me, it's C
Exactly.
series C, BC. I don't want to go, again, IPO related companies or that are already IPO past. I've been there, I've done that, I don't like that anymore, right? So I've already niched it down to a very specific ICP. I know where they're at. Most of them are on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is my core channel because of that, right? So
Yeah.
it's channel market fit or channel ICP fit. And that's the basics of marketing, right? So
Yeah.
for me, it's like that's how you get your clients. Identify the ICP, identify where they are, and then start marketing yourself on that. So I've identified LinkedIn as my core channel. Most of my leads come through LinkedIn or referral network. But my first biggest fractional engagement with Test Gorilla, beautiful company, by the way.
They're looking for an interim now.
Yes,
I saw.
they are looking for an interim indeed. And I've already referred someone for that role because I couldn't join. But the beautiful part there was that they were looking for a fractional leader already, which was for European standards. You know, you don't at that time, which was quite early still. In the US, the fractional term was already used a lot.
Yeah.
But that lead was because they found me on LinkedIn. So it was literally my profile, and a recruiter found me, and I got that job through LinkedIn. And I didn't have
Awesome.
that many fractional engagements, but it was because how I positioned myself that I was a right fit for that type of company at that type of stage. So your
Cool.
LinkedIn profile is your number one postcard. It's your number one brand if you're in the B2B tech or AI space. So for me, that is like the number one way how I get leads. But of course, you need to be active on your LinkedIn. It's not like, oh yeah,
Yes.
let's have a LinkedIn profile. The thing is, marketing is very complicated for a lot of people, but once you understand it, it's actually not that difficult because it's all about making sure that people see you and that you repeat your message over and over and over again.
Right.
Nobody will convert by seeing your brand once. People
Exactly.
will convert by seeing the repetitive message over and over and over again. And I have people following me or following me for a year, and then all of a sudden they say, "Hey, Sjeel, I've been following you. I see you posted something on this about PLG and motions and how to move from PLG to SLG. I see you have experience with that. Oh, that's so interesting. Can you help us?" And I'm like, "Of course." So it's really about setting your ICP, finding the right channel, and then speaking about the issues the pain points that your ICP have, and then posting regularly on LinkedIn, and just making sure that you share also your wins and the reviews of like the clients that you worked with. I always mention them on my LinkedIn. I enter them in my how do you say
Experience.
experiences. Yeah, and I also do a post if I have a new client, and I thank them if I leave the company. So all of those things help a lot with building like your own fractional brand.
Cool. This has been a great mini segment to share with aspiring fractionals. I
Yeah,
literally had, I think, over the last couple of weeks, 3 different conversations with people who are like now going into fractional work. And I think 2 of them were marketing, 2 out of the 3, and one was on the sales side. And they all asked the same question. And I can take this last 7 minutes or so and tell them, listen to this, listen to
yeah,
Sjeel. She knows what she's talking about.
yeah.
Um,
But the thing is like it works for me because my clients are on LinkedIn, right? So it's like if you define your subset of clients, your ICP, then define what the channel is that works best
of
for you.
course,
Maybe it's Reddit, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's like I don't know, But yeah, don't sail blindly on what works for me that it will work for you as well because you do need to do a lot of posting, you do need to write your content, you do need to
correct.
spend time on that in the weekends.
I also think one of when I started my fractional journey, I was lucky to somehow stumble into a call with Bill McAdis, who was the CMO of Salesforce, and a few others I forgot already. But it was a really interesting conversation, and he said something quite similar to what you just said. It's like it's don't default to LinkedIn, but he said it in a very fun and American way. He said, "Eat your own dog food. What are you good at? If you're good at building thought leadership, if what you would advise your customers is to focus on content and lead generation through thought leadership and content, and go and do that. If you're saying that you're really really good at building lead gen, lead gen engines, put your money where your mouth is. Build your own lead gen engine. If you're saying that you're really good at ABM, go and do ABM. If you're really good at like community building, go be active on Reddit. Find like communities on Slack. Get your leads through there. So like figure out, one is where your ICP is, because obviously you want to be there, but also what's the value that you can bring, and prove your value by exercising what you say you can do to get your clients in the door. Like
Yeah.
that's the best way to get them in. And that's like stuck with me for a long time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Cool. So let's switch gears a bit, and let's talk about we talked a lot about your journey and a lot about success and how success kind of looks like, and I think you've had a fantastic journey. But let's switch it and talk maybe about something that didn't work so much. I call this section your most fracked up moment. So we talked a bit about your experience at Holiday Hero, but maybe something from your fractional journey, because I can share from my experience that not every engagement is the best engagement. Not every time you're able to deliver. Sometimes it's on you, sometimes it's on the founder, sometimes it's timing or market. But is there like one story that kind of sticks with you of something that like didn't work out, and you've had some learnings to take away from that?
Yeah, I think what happens is, if you don't define the type of clients that you want to work for, or the industries that you most resonate with, or the products that you most resonate with, um, then sometimes you end up in fractional engagements that you just do because of the money, but you don't do it because you really get energy from it. And I think in the beginning of my fractional journey, that happened, where I, of course, wanted to have, some fractional engagements at the same time. And yeah, there I made some choices of just saying yes to something, while maybe in the beginning I already knew that it was not suitable for me. And that's why after that I defined my ICP even sharper, where it was like, okay, they need to have product market fit. They need to have at least some recurring revenue, right?
Yeah.
Specific thresholds, like around 5 to 10 million um, annual recurring revenue. They need to be in specific industries that I like. Um, they need to have at least some marketers in place, or they need to have the budget to do so, right? So
Yeah.
I think each fractional engagement taught me what I need to do better as a fractional, to make sure that I don't end up in an engagement where I feel unhappy. Because
Hmm.
if you're unhappy, your clients are also not going to be happy, because you cannot deliver your full, your best experience to them. So I ended up with a company that was in an industry that I actually don't have much affinity with. And I mean, as a marketer, you need to get in the heads of the buyers, anyways, right? So as a
Exactly.
marketer, you need to have the skill to be able to adapt to any industry, and apply your playbooks to that. But yeah, it's also okay if you don't like certain industries, and I guess that happened. So
Yeah.
I went back to tech, and I went back to AI, and I went back to B2B, and that's my core. And I don't do B2C. I don't do services or agencies, or human,
Yeah.
or more product heavy companies. Um, they need to have a software angle, and they need to be either software in the B2B tech space or the AI space. And that's just what I do, and nothing else. And I do get requests from, consumer brands, or services companies, or consultancy companies, that want me to do their branding or anything like that. But it just doesn't, doesn't bring me
Yeah.
the energy that I want.
No, I think that's a very, very valuable lesson to take away from this is, like figure out what you're good at, but also what makes you happy, because sometimes you can be good at things that you just won't enjoy for a long period of time. um I know, for example, for myself, like I don't do like crypto, web3, those types of projects. It's like I just can't get myself like emotionally involved in those projects, because I have like very hard time believing that a lot of those companies, have real value, and it's not just like elaborate pyramid schemes. So it's like, I've been approached a couple of times by companies in that area, and I always pushed back and said, I'm not the right guy for you. So yeah, totally relate to that.
Yeah, it's important to say no. Just as important
Exactly.
as it is to say yes, but it's super important to say no to clients. But sometimes, yeah, if you are in need to, feed yourself, you sometimes say yes to clients, and then that happens. But I think after that, once you've got a little bit more like a stable influx of inbound leads, you will create the luxury for yourself, so you can choose and you can then really pick the clients that you're happy to work with. But even then, sometimes you end up in situations where a fractional is not fully embraced, or they don't implement fractional leadership within the organization as it used to be. So as a fractional leader, you really need to make sure that you um, educate the executive and founding teams on how you want to be introduced, um, and how you will work with them, because otherwise there will be a lot of misalignments, and then it's once you're already deep in, it becomes really challenging.
Exactly. Okay. So let's change the pace a bit, and let's kind of switch over to our quickfire round. So I'll ask you a few quick questions, and answer the first thing that comes to mind. So we'll start with fact or fiction, or frac or fiction, as I like to call this corner. Um, a fractional CMO is just a part-time advisor, and their impact can't be deep enough. I've heard that from a few founders. What's your take on
They didn't work with the right fractional.
that? That is a fantastic answer.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the number one tool in your toolkit that you swear by? The one that you're not going to go into any project without wielding it?
My custom ICP GPT. Yeah.
Ooh, nice. Now I want to take us a peek into that one.
Yeah. You
Uh,
should.
I, I have my own, so I would love to compare notes. I think every CMO or fractional CMO has like their own brand of like costume GPTs that they swear by. I think it would
Yeah.
be great to do a show and compare at some point. Um, cool. What's we touched on this a bit, but I think like let's refine this. What's your definition of a dream client versus a nightmare client?
Ooh. Um, a dream client would be a client that just raised money, and that could be anywhere from, yeah, I think preferably series A or B. They already have a team, um, but the it was either founder led still, because sometimes they're like four team members and they're still managed by the founder, or there's a CRO, but they don't have the time anymore to do it. And then they really need to gear up to that next stage of growth, right?
Yeah.
There's these expectations either from a VC, or they have a very clear track on where they need to go. They're bootstrapped, or and then I come in and then I can hire the right team, set the strategy, and really work with them. Or there's either a head of marketing that needs to grow into like a director or VP and then I help them and coach them into where they need to be. Yeah, that's the ideal.
That's the dream client.
That's the
And what
dream.
about the nightmare client?
The nightmare client would be a founder not being to be able to let go of go to market, wanting to micromanage me, wanting to be in discussions about everything. Why did you then hire me, first of all?
Yeah.
And yeah, they are just oblivious to a lot of things that are there, right? I mean, AI, we need to adopt it. Let's get on the bandwagon. Let's not have
Yeah.
discussions around it. Or people that say, I need more MQLs. That for me is like, if I hear that in the first intro conversation already, I'm like, sorry, but I'm not going to work with you. That's just, if they are open for me to challenge that, and if they say, oh, that's interesting, then I'm still open to work with them. But usually once they say we need more leads, then that's already something where I feel that I need to educate them more than I can really like be a partner in crime to make
Yeah.
their company succeed.
Yeah. Okay. Where do you see the future of fractional? It's a big
Ooh,
question.
the future of Fractional is going to be amazing, I think. I think, especially in Europe, right? Because I think in the US, fractional leadership has been existing for a longer time. And I think there are a lot more established fractionals. But I think in the EMEA region, that's not the case. So, and there are a ton of very cool tech startups and scale ups that need a lot of fractional help. So, yeah, I see this still going strong for the years to come. I actually really believe in fractional leadership, but I do think that there's some people that go and say that they are fractional and they might not have like the knowledge or the track record or all of these things. So I would invite founders and executives to really um, you know read about what fractional leadership means, and that you hire the right fractional person, so the real fractionals don't come into situations where it's like, oh, we need to defend what we're actually doing and what we're here for. But then also I've seen a lot of young startups and entrepreneurs that are so full on in belief of fractional leadership and what it can do, um, that for me is like the sign that this is the right path for me, and might be the path for a lot of other people too.
All right. So we're approaching the end of our episode, and before we wrap this up, I do have one last question. And again, we kind of touched on this before, but I think we probably have a lot more to share on that topic. So, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who's thinking about going fractional, someone who's still maybe a bit earlier in their career, still full time, maybe just left their job or lost their job, and are thinking, maybe my next step should not be another full time hire, but going fractional. What's your number one advice for them?
My number one advice would be just if you want to do it, you should really try it, and try doing 2 clients first. So start with one, of course, and that will be from your network. Then start with the second one, where you do that in 1 week, and really understand if you like it. So first sign contracts for maybe 3 or 4 months, so you can still, get out of it early. And then you will also understand if fractional leadership is for you, because then you can still say to the other client, oh, I have more availability. I can actually work 4 or 5 days for you. And then maybe interim might be a better solution for you. And that's also fine, right? There are enough interim opportunities out there, but it's not the same as fractional leadership, right? That is, you have a few clients in the week, up to 4, which
Yes.
also not for everyone.
Yes.
So I think that's you should try it, right? Try before you buy, and even if you try, buy could be an option, right? So sometimes I see it happen that you get into a fractional job, and then they want to hire you eventually, and then you can still get back into like the actual full-time role. So it's not like an end game, right? So if you're
Yeah.
worried about that, yeah, don't be worried about that. But just make sure that you have a backup, a support plan, right? On Because yeah, it can be scary because you're saying goodbye to stability,
Exactly.
and that can be very scary for people. Yeah.
Okay. That's a great piece of advice.
All right.
And in that, I think we'll wrap up this episode. Um, do you want to share, who your ICP is? So if they're listening in, I know you have your pipeline already full, but I think it can't hurt. So if you're listening in and you like this conversation, you feel like Sjeel is your go-to next fractional CMO. So who would you define as your ideal ICP?
Yeah, so if you're in C to Series C, and specifically just raised your Series A, or you're going to raise your Series B, and you have a head of marketing, or you have a CRO or a VP of sales that's responsible for the sales organization, and you want some executive marketing leadership that can, improve your current situation to where it needs to be, then yeah, reach out to me. That
Awesome.
rhymes.
Yeah, that's a very clear definition of ICP as well. So even if you're not in that, um, you know, that bucket of ICP and you are a
Yeah.
fractional, I think that's a great way to define who your target market is.
If
And
I can,
obviously, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, if I can end with that, like, I think there are a lot of very skilled heads of marketing that just need that bit of coaching. And I do that for 2 clients right now. So if you have a head of marketing and you really believe in that person, but that person is missing just specific knowledge to get where the company needs to be, don't let go of them, but invest in them. And fractionals can help with that.
100%. Awesome. So obviously, your Shield's LinkedIn is going to be in the show notes wherever you hear or watch this episode. And with that, we'll wrap it up. So, Sjeel Koster, thank you so much for being with me today and for having this very, very interesting and insightful conversation.
Thanks. It
Uh,
was lovely speaking with you, Adir.
Same here. And to our listeners, our watchers, wherever you are, thank you. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please like, share, comment, upvote, leave us a review, and share this with other fractional leaders or founders that could benefit from listening in. And thank you, and we'll see you next time.